So, you've decided to step into the agency world and you're feeling lost and unsure in terms of what niche you can pick to get the success that you need. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 profitable niches that you can implement right away. I'm also going to break down the pros and cons of each niche so that you can understand that niche properly and lay in the foundations correctly for your agency. That means by the end of this video, you can focus your time and energy in the correct way so that you can maximize your success. If you're new here, my name's Dan. I've scaled multiple successful agencies and I also run a community of agency owners with over 700 members inside. I've been in this space for over 10 years now, which means that all of the information that I'm going to give you in this video is not only genuine, but practical. Now, before I give you the 5 profitable niches, I wanted to break the common misconception that a lot of agency owners struggle with on a daily basis. A lot of guys that are just starting out think there is such thing as a winning niche. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. There are pros and cons to every niche. If you can understand the pros and understand the cons, then you can dominate any niche. However, by picking the relevant niche, you're going to be able to propel your success so much quicker. The most important aspect that you need to understand, it's all about becoming a subject matter expert. Clients are looking for agencies that don't just specialize in marketing, but are industry experts so that they can have a consultative approach when it comes to working with them. Now I'm going to switch over to the whiteboard so we can break down the niches, the pros, the cons, and how you can get started today. Now we're at the whiteboard, let's jump straight into it. The first profitable niche that I would suggest that you guys have a look at is air source heat pump. Now that falls nicely within the renewable energy niche, and most commonly everyone jumps into the solar industry. So by going into air source heat pump, you have a less saturated industry. Let's break down the pros and cons. The first one is legislation. Now, there are legislative changes coming to the UK, which essentially means that every single homeowner has to implement an air source heat pump system into their home by 2035. Now, that also means that the government are giving them £7,500 grants towards those systems. The reason why this is so important for us as agency owners is we can work with plumbing and heating engineers and incentivize and educate the consumers to be able to get them more installations, meaning more profit for you guys. Then we could have a look at the fact that it's high ticket. Each one of these are very expensive, which essentially means that even if you're on a performance base with your client, you are going to make a nice slice. And then last but not least, it is not saturated, because I can almost guarantee that most of the people watching this video hadn't even thought of that niche. Even if you do a Google search, there's barely any agencies that are specifically niched down to air source heat pump. So I've given you a nice winner to start with. Now let's look at the cons for this niche. The first one is you have to be a subject matter expert, okay? If you do not know what you're talking about in this specific industry, you will get chewed up and swallowed. So it's very important to understand the industry, and the best way that you can get wise is by doing in-depth research, competitor analysis, and go into market by actually picking up the phone and speaking to these clients directly and learning from the guys that are actually installing it. Now the next con is plumbing and heating engineers are normally busy during the day, which means you're going to have to do a lot of cold calling outside of hours and a lot of outreach efforts using a multi-channel sequence to get them at different times. So we're going to have to look at after-hour cold calling because they're going to be doing installations during the day. Niche number 2 is going to be auto detailing. For those of you guys that don't know what auto detailing is, it's essentially a posh word for saying cleaning cars. However, we have services like ceramic coating, PPF, which are a little bit more higher ticket, as well as commercial auto detailers as well. So let's look at the pros. First of all, let me write the niche on here so that you guys don't forget. But let's look at the pros. The first pro is the fact that it's a low barrier to entry. Now, what I mean by this, guys, is if you have zero experience in the agency space and you're looking to gain your confidence when it comes to cold calling, auto detailers are really easy to speak to. They are always available on the phone, so you're going to speak to a lot more decision makers, as well as because they are smaller businesses, they will have their mobile numbers on their websites, which means that you can get through directly to the decision maker. Then the next pro is it's got a massive market, okay? Which essentially means because it's such a low barrier to entry for us, It's also a low barrier for entry for people that are jumping into this business space so that they can grab a bucket, a sponge, get a little bit of knowledge in the industry and jump straight in. So that means we're going to have more clients to target on a daily basis. Now, if we look at the cons are we can't charge too much. So it's going to be low retainers or even performance base that is low. The next con is show up rate. What I mean by this is you will find that a lot of auto detailers do not show up to discoveries or demos. So you need to make sure you implement a great strategy, a sales asset, some sort of value proposition to hook them into attending that next call. So what I would say for you guys that are just starting out, try this niche, especially if you've got a bit of a passion for cars, because it's a great way to get into the agency space. Do I think that you're going to stay in it for the longest amount of time? No, but will it get you to 5K a month? Yes, then you can transition and you've got the fundamentals of your agency. So the next niche that we're going to explore is real estate. Now, real estate is a very common niche when it comes to social media marketing, especially in the US, because there are several independent realtors, which means our first pro is that there is a high volume of prospects. So with having a high volume of prospects, that means we are not going to struggle to find customers to talk to or clients to talk to, which is a great pro. The second one is it's very high ticket. Now, obviously, this does depend on whether you're doing sales or rentals. However, I would suggest going into this sales market. Now, a lot of people, when they get into real estate, they assume that it's just independent realtors, but it can also be investors looking for commercial deals. So you do need to become a subject matter expert in the industry. So I'm going to stick that in cons straight away. Now, this isn't much of a con because if you're actually passionate about the industry and you want to be able to understand property, it's a very interesting industry. Make sure that you understand it before you jump into it. Now, the next pro that we have is that you will be able to network with a lot of high net worth individuals, which is going to line you up for the future when you do transition your niche, or if you stay in this niche, you're going to be able to get into the property ladder yourself. So network is net worth, as we all know. Now let's look at the cons. The first one, obviously, we mentioned as subject matter expert. However, the second one we need to understand is these guys are sales guys, which means they will sniff you out and chew you up if they think you're inexperienced. So make sure that you put your time into understanding the industry as well as understanding how to get good at sales. Make sure you have a good value-driven sales process so that they can buy into you. And the last con is the fact that it is quite saturated. However, I'm not one to believe in saturation. If you are good in the industry, then you will do okay. So make sure that you understand that the pros are volume of prospect is high ticket. You're going to build a network, but you need to be good because these guys are sales guys. You need to have industry experience and you understand that it's saturated so that you need to leverage your unique selling point being you. So guys, the fourth one that we're going to be looking at is B2B SaaS. Now, SaaS stands for Software as a Service, and I would recommend understanding this niche before jumping into it. But let's look at the pros and cons. First of all, high value contracts. Now, a lot of SaaS platforms that are targeting different businesses or different consumers normally have contracts, which means that you're going to be able to perhaps get a percentage of that revenue on a recurring basis, which is going to give you more working capital to scale because of MRR. Okay. Now, the second or third pro on this one is that they are normally VC backed. So what I mean by this, guys, is they have venture capitalists backing them in terms of giving them investment so that they can invest in sales and marketing, which means that you guys as an agency, if you come across well as a subject matter expert and can fulfill for them, then you're able to take a slice of that working capital. And finally, it's an industry that is moving forward. So the tech is always advancing, which means you are not going to be dying out in this industry anytime soon, especially with AI and machine learning around the corner. Then the cons are you have to become a subject matter expert. As we've explained before, in most of these industries, if you don't understand what you're talking about, you are going to get chewed up and spat out very, very quickly. The next con is that it will have long sales cycles. So what I mean by this is likelihood is they're going to have a board of directors, especially if they've had investment, which means it's going to take a long time for you to get sign off on that deal. So it could even be 2 to 3 sales calls just to get them over the line. Now, finally, the last con is that they will have high expectations. So your clients are going to want to see results pretty quickly. And the problem with that is if you are inexperienced, you might upset the client. So you're better off starting with performance-based if you don't know the industry and you've never jumped into SaaS before. But if you are experienced, then it is a very good industry to be in because it is consistently moving forward, it's VC backed, and you're able to really leverage your experience and network as well as their working capital to scale your agency. And finally, the last niche that we're going to be looking at is insurance. So the insurance niche isn't as common in SMMA, which is quite interesting because there are a lot of pros that weigh up the cons. The first one is that it is recession proof, which means that it is a stable industry to go after. Insurance is never going to die out. You could look at things like life insurance, home insurance, car insurance, and help these industries get more customers. The second pro is it's relatively high ticket, but also we can look at mid-ticket insurance too, which is a great option for you guys that are just starting out. Then recurring revenue opportunities. So if you land a very good deal with an insurance company, you might be able to get a percentage of the recurring revenue that they're going to make by signing up that one specific customer. So this is going to allow you to get MRR, give you working capital to be able to scale your agency to the next level. I really recommend the insurance niche because it is also not saturated, especially if you sub-niche down and find one specific industry within insurance that takes your fancy and that is profitable. So make sure that you break this down and have a look at other industries. So that could be home, car, life, even jet insurance, right? Like there's so many things that we can break it down to. Then the cons. Number one is compliance. So you need to get clued up in terms of the compliance because there's a lot of compliance when advertising for insurance businesses. If you don't understand the compliance or the regulatory information that you need to be able to advertise for these businesses, you might come across some legal issues. So just be careful with insurance and make sure that you do some research when it comes to insurance. So the second con is actually educating the clients on using social media to get customers. Sometimes what you'll find in the insurance niche is they're quite old in their ways and they do things very traditional. So you have to educate them about the power of social media and Facebook ads to help them gain additional revenue into their business. But if you're good at sales, then you'll be absolutely fine in terms of the education piece. And if you're not, don't worry, just understand the industry and you'll be able to educate them effectively because you know what you're talking about. And the last con, dependent on the specific sub-niche of insurance, it can be quite tricky in terms of fulfillment when targeting on the ads. So I would recommend only going into the insurance niche if you have some time to really understand how you're going to be able to deliver for these clients and you understand Meta Ads' platform so that you can do the targeting correctly to get the results that you need. So guys, that's been the top 5 profitable niches of 2024. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and drop a like if you did.